Morning.
Well, if you are good to go, I'm with you, please.
Okay.
I want to do my hair. This hair is disturbing me.
Morning, my lord. Good morning, Honorable Attorney General.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, welcome, Prof.
Good morning. Just now.
Honorable
Good
Chief
morning,
Judge,
Mr. Collins.
and welcome
morning,
our
Mr.
very
Moderator.
Good morning to you, Prof.
and participants. Good morning and welcome our very distinguished panelists and participants. I welcome you all to the first Online Settlement Month webinar. The theme, Resolving Disputes Through Technology in Africa. Now, the Lagos Multi-Door Court House, which is the first court and next dispute resolution center in Nigeria, in conjunction with the Lagos State Judiciary, will be organizing the very first Online Settlement Month in Africa from the 16th of November to the 11th of December 2020. And during the OSM, as it is called, hundreds of disputes currently on the docket, the Lagos High Court, and also disputes that have not yet been filed in court, will be screened and mediated in an online environment. This webinar today is to announce the innovation and sensitize and educate the public, disputing parties and their counsel on the OSM and the workings of online dispute resolution. The objectives of this program are to understand the online dispute resolution process, to analyze the effectiveness of online dispute resolution, to examine the benefits of settlement month in the resolution of commercial and other types of disputes, to outline the role of counsel in the online dispute resolution process, and to outline the types of cases to be referred to the OSM program. We have a very, very distinguished panel that will be joining us in this webinar today. Of course, we have, as you all know, the Honorable Justice T.O. Aloba, the Chief Judge of Lagos State, we have Honorable Justice T.O. Yekabulai, the Chairman of the LSW Committee. We have Honorable Justice T.O. Pedro, the Acting Chairman of the LMC Governing Council. We have Mr. Moyosori Onibanjo, the Honorable Attorney General of the State of Lagos State. We have Mr. Olumide Atata, the President of the Nigerian Bar Association. We have Mrs. Adeyinka Aroyanwu, the Director of the Lagos Multi-Door Court House. We have Professor Yodele Asenua, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Law for the University of Lagos. We have Mr. Clifford Collins, who is the Chief Operating Officer and Mediator of Accord. We have Ms. Ibi Yemi Adeyinka, who is a Mediator and Director of International Energy Insurance PLC. My name is Mr. Alex Walker. I'm a member of the LSW committee and the moderator of this event. Now, I would like to lay some ground rules, and I will seek the permission of the Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State to perform a quasi-judicial function by setting some important ground rules for this webinar. My Lord, may I proceed?
Order has prayed.
Thank
Order
you.
has prayed.
Now, timing. We have very strict timelines, and so I will appeal to all the distinguished panelists, especially our erudite judges, who sometimes like to deliver lengthy judgments, to kindly keep within the time slots allocated to them. We may be constrained to mute any panelists who overruns their time slots to avoid eating into another presentation. So I seek your indulgence and apologize in advance during the webinar. At some point in the program, we'll flash poll questions on the screen related to the ongoing presentation for participants to quickly respond to. Now, the questions and responses are succinct and can be ticked and submitted in a matter of seconds without distracting from the presentation. The poll results will be announced at the end of each relevant presentation. Now, I will encourage every participant here to partake in the poll. It is anonymous and your questions will not be used or held against you. We will have time for a Q&A interaction with participants at the end of the webinar. However, all questions will have to be sent in using the chat box functionality. So please feel free to start sending your questions from the start of the webinar, and we'll endeavor to take as many of them as we can during the Q&A. Please make your questions short and sweet, and do endeavor to send them in English language. So we'll start immediately, and I would like to move immediately to the keynote address. Now, the keynote address will be delivered by the Honorable Justice K.O. Aloba, the Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State. Now, in case you are wondering, the initials K.O. stand for Kazeem Olarinwaju and not knockout as in boxing. So please don't get it twisted. Whilst he does pack enough punch to give people knockout, his preference is always to resolve disputes in a fair and amicable way that helps to preserve friendships and relationships. Please join me in welcoming Honorable Justice K.O. Aloba, the Chief of Lagos State, deliver his keynote address for 5 minutes. Thank you, my lord.
Thank you very much, Muka. Well, because of time, let me say, all distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my lords, and everybody present on this webinar, I welcome you all to the first online settlement month in Africa, which is organized by the LMDC. It is indeed a first of its kind in the entire continent, and I'm delighted to address you all on this occasion of the first online settlement month in Africa webinar, whose theme is resolving disputes through technology. Let me briefly say that the Lagos State Judiciary is committed to ensuring disputes are resolved fairly, timely, transparently, and economically by leveraging on enabling technology with inherent seamless integration of the core processes, structures, and the administration. The incorporation of technology into the operations of the Lagos State Judiciary has spanned the use of the Judiciary Information System for the filing of processes, which has now been upgraded to include e-payment for the faster filing and processing of cases without the need to visit the High Court registry. In addition, to promote a timely and efficient disposal of cases, the use of suitable technology, just determination of proceedings, and efficient use of available judicial and administrative resources, the practice directions on remote hearing of cases, what we call the COVID-19 pandemic period practice directions, set out the guidelines to be adopted in remote hearings to guarantee continued access to justice and expeditious disposal of cases while minimizing the risk of transmission of the COVID-19. Remote hearings in these practice directions are by Zoom, Skype for business, or any other video communication method approved by the courts. Now, the Lagos Settlement Week, as a program of the Lagos State Multi-Door Courthouse, was the first of its kind in the judicial history of Nigeria, which has now been replicated in other states in Nigeria. The LSW is a week set aside by the City of Lagos State for the decongestion of the dockets of courts through the provision of user-friendly, speedy, and enhanced ADR options. During the LSW, disputants have an opportunity to have their cases mediated at no cost to the parties. In view of the need to ensure physical distancing, the LMDC has introduced a new program, that is this first online settlement month in Africa. I've approved that the OSM for short should take place from November 16 to December 11 this year to provide disputants with an avenue for the resolution of their disputes from the comfort of their homes and offices. In deploying online dispute resolution, the online settlement month will not only aid court decongestion, but provide an avenue for the resolution of a range of disputes not yet filed in court, including commercial transactions, international disputes, family and marital conflicts, aviation, telecommunications, maritime, oil and gas, landlord and tenants, land, and other such disputes in which parties can have the benefit of a trained mediator to guide the parties to an amicable resolution. Although the LMDC has commenced the use of ODR previously due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it has deployed the use of ODR more extensively from June 2020, with series of internal and external online trainings and demonstrations to prepare staff, mediators, parties, and counsel for the online mediation sessions. The online mediation and arbitration sessions at the LMDC have now become a major option for the resolution of dispute by parties and counsel. I've been informed that despite challenges with technology, most counsel and disputants are enthusiastic about ODR as an avenue for the expeditious resolution of their disputes. I'm indeed proud of Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse for blazing the trail in online dispute resolution in Africa. The objectives of this webinar organized by the LMDC is to enable participants understand the online dispute resolution process and the effectiveness of ODR in its entirety. In addition, this webinar will address some of the benefits of the online settlement month in the resolution of commercial and other types of disputes, as well as outline the role of counsel in the online dispute resolution process and the typology of cases to be referred to the Settlement Month Program 2020. I've gone through the agenda set out for this webinar, and I'm most satisfied with the choice of topics slated for discussion. I'm also very well impressed by the caliber of individuals appointed as guest speakers and resource persons. I must say that participants will find this a very rewarding webinar. I therefore urge you all, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to pay rapt attention, take keen interest, own this session, and participate actively in all the discussions. My lords, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor to declare the first online settlement month in Africa webinar open. I wish you all very successful and fruitful deliberations. Thank you. God bless all of us, and God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, very erudite and distinguished Chief Judge of Lagos State. We move swiftly to the next presentation. We are introducing the Honorable Attorney General of Lagos State, Mr. Moyosori Onigbanjo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to give us his remarks. Now, it gives me particular pleasure in announcing my Egbon Moyo Onigbanjo SCN as Honorable Attorney General and Constitutional of Lagos State. He's a veritable stakeholder in today's webinar, having served in a previous incarnation as a member of the Lagos Settlement Week Committee before his appointment as Attorney General. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Moyo Onigbanjo SCN to speak to us, give us his remarks for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moka. My Lord, the Chief Judge of Lagos State, my Lords, the judges of the High Court of Lagos State and other courts here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to sit here in the Chief Judge's office to join this webinar, and with his permission to use his device to address you. It's of course heartwarming to note that this webinar is being organized to further online dispute resolution. The Lagos Settlement Week is also a notable feature in the calendar of the Lagos State Judiciary, and today's event lends itself to ensuring that in all that we do, we are at international best practices. We support it fully at the Ministry of Justice, and I wish all the participants, I wish them fruitful deliberations. The faculty of is indeed very, very rich. You have people with deep knowledge of ADR, and I'm sure that at the end of the day, resolutions will come forth that will advance the cause and knowledge of ADR within our jurisdiction. Thank you very much. I wish you, as I said, fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Attorney General of Lagos State. That was short and sweet. May I present to give us her presentation, which is...
Sorry, Mr. Moka, please. Sorry, Mr. Moka, permit me to break protocol, please. It is not
Yes, my lord.
for fun that you have I and Attorney General sitting in the same place this morning. We have to attend to a very important state matter together, which ought to have started as well at 11. But I deferred it so as to be able to attend this. Will permit both of us to escape from you now. Probably we may come back to join you later. Thank you very much.
Very well, my lord. Very well, my lord. Thank you.
Thank you, my lord.
Thank you, my lord. Now, I would like to introduce Honorable Justice T.A.O. Oyeko Abdullahi, who is the chairman of the Lagos Settlement Week Committee and the administrative judge of the Lagos Division of the High Court of Lagos State. She's a very soft-spoken and peacemaking jurist who seems to have the spirit of mediatory settlement in her blood. Maybe it is because she's a staunch Muslim who attended an Anglican primary school. So she has successfully mediated what would otherwise have been irreconcilable religious differences very early in life. Please make welcome Justice T.O. Oyeko Abdullahi as she speaks to us for 15 minutes, introducing the first online settlement month, OSM, in Africa. Welcome you.
Good morning once again, Mr. Moka. My Lord, the Chief Judge, my Lord Justice Pedro, and all other judges of the Lagos State High Court, the learned Attorney General, panelists, and staff and director, most especially the director and our team who organized this webinar. I am delighted to be here. Aside from being an ADR judge, I have practiced this all my life. And as Mr. Moka said, I have encountered love and mediation throughout childhood. As a Muslim and as a Christian, I have seen it all. So I am balanced and privileged, and that is my life. Thank you, Mr. Moka, for flashing that in public. Today is a very special day in the of the multi-door. It is indeed the online settlement month of our very, very respectable multi-door program. It's an annual program, and I will start by the aid of the graphics, which will be set up by the multi-court staff. The online settlement month is our baby of the Lagos State Judiciary, and we're very proud that it has come off stream nationally and internationally. The online settlement month is a product of the annual settlement settlement week held by the Lagos Multi-Door, sponsored by the Lagos State government. The Lagos Settlement Week program is an integral part of the judiciary, as I've said, is our baby, and is organized for 12 consecutive parts from 2009 to 2020. The Settlement Week is defined by Section 40 of the LMDC Law 2015, and I quote, it says, and I quote, a week set aside by the Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State in the person of Honorable Justice Kazeem Alugba, Chief Judge of Lagos State, for specific court to clear the backlog of cases through means which include the returns to the LMDC for the possible resolution through mediation, arbitration, neutral evaluation, and any other ADR procedure. The Settlement Week was first organized in 2009, and was a winner of the Converted Significant Achievement in the Field of Dispute Resolution Award of the Center for Effective Dispute Resolution, CEDR, UK, during its 20th anniversary award ceremony in London in October 2010 for its ability to generate awareness of ADR in Lagos State, and indeed, I dare say, Nigeria. In 2014, we had an increased number of settlement week, and we had that of the district settlement and the high court settlement. The district settlement was in 2014, and we had another one for the magistrates and the judiciary in 2014. In 2016, we graduated, and of course, the graduation was with very high spirit and with good statistics. The graphics are on the screen for you to see. And that happened in May 2016 and December 2016. We moved on to the year 2017, and the premier and the first foremost settlement week program was organized for both the High Court and the Magistrate Court in Ikorodu. Thus, the program was organized in 3 phases. The first was in Ikorodu. The next one comes up in February 2017, and the second settlement week was in the High Court, held in 2017, June, to be precise. The third one was the settlement week held in December 2017. In preparing for the LSW program held in December 2017, the first ADR roundtable for lawyers was organized, and we had at the foyer, the High Court foyer, and we had in attendance all our 21st century lawyers. And when I say that, I mean 21st century lawyers who really identified with the multi-door and the ADR procedure. And they all came in their numbers, and it was well articulated, and the discussions were very, 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 very frank, and the event very successful. We continued this program in 2019, and the LSW program was held. The court dispute resolution audit was extremely conducted for 41 ADR amenable cases, courts located in the 5 judicial divisions, that is our Ikeja division, our Lagos division, our Badagry division, our Epe, and of course Ikorodu, all in the Lagos State Judiciary, to assess the achievement of the LMDC vision. Consequently, 2,313 cases, ADR amenable cases, were screened as suitable for the selected court, which resulted in an increase of referral and aided preparations for the LSW December program. The graphics are shown on the screen. The LSW statistics summary from 2009 to 2019 are equally on the screen. In 2009, we had 34 number of cases. In 2010, we had 30. In 2011, we had 52. 2012, we had 84. 2013, 107. 2014, 75. 15, 52. 2016, 148. 2017, 91. 2018, 134. And 2019, 134 equally. The first online settlement month program in Africa, which is what we're launching today, is of great significance to us as an organization, that is the Lagos State Judiciary and the Multi-Door Court, and to the entire Nigerian population, and indeed Africa. The first online settlement week 2020 program in Africa was birthed due to growing increase in the COVID-19 pandemic cases recorded across Africa. If you listen to the Chief Judge was talking about the COVID-19 presentation of from his hand, which we did which we call the COVID-19 pandemic COVID-19 is like a program. COVID-19 is like an addition to our rules, but is issued this time from the Chief Judge on his direction, COVID-19 direction, which we all followed throughout the period, and which we are very proud of our Chief Judge, because that was the first in Nigeria, if not Africa. This program is scheduled to hold for a month to make adequate provisions for time constraint and challenges associated with online mediation. This novel initiation of the Lagos State Judiciary and the Lagos Multi-Door Court will give the courts and the citizens of Lagos State an opportunity, Lagos State, Nigeria, and indeed Africa, an opportunity to refer cases to the program for the possible amicable resolution. We have done this in phases, and I will read out how it's going to be. We have the circular. The first phase is the initial program, which the Chief Judge has given the initial program to all courts. The second phase is the identification and screening and the training of our officials and legal ADR court registrar screen and select cases. Copies of these processes are made by the LMD for processing. Then we have the intake of screening at the LMDC and notification to the referral court for suitable matter via a suitability report. We are at this stage now. That stage is where we are now. We all encourage members of the public to do a lot of working to present their cases also. We're not just restricted to the court. We encourage members of the public to have a walk-in and have their attention of the staff of the multi-door to deal with their cases. This is another very novel initiative. The third one is a notification by the court, official notification to the parties. The court, by way of issuance of hearing notice and forwarding the LMDC via NIPOS for delivery to the parties where applicable. At the appearance of parties in the court, they are informed of the suitability of their matter to LSW, and the enrollment of order is properly made by the court, and the parties had full submission of the forms during hearing, and the legal registrar forwards it to the LMDC along with the enrollment order and other relevant processes. The first OSM 2020 program continues with contact and scheduling of pre-session and mediation session. These are very important features of this program. The pre-session workshop for all parties and counsel and all other parties. Then we have the mediation conference, and then we have the addresses. The projection for the year 2020 is as follows. We are thinking of a success story of 90%, and we have identified 120 cases, and we feel the cases scheduled for mediation like 50, cases settled probably 450, and cases adjourned 30, and cases scheduled 10, and cases not settled 10. So all in all, we're looking at 90% success. I think this settlement month of 2020 is a very good one, and we encourage everybody to participate as it is novel and unique. Programmed by referral of cases appropriately and timely to the LMDC is important. We urge all my brother judges to follow this protocol and ensure that we all are keeping abreast of this program. And I wish you a very good, successful tenure, and this program runs through very well. That is my presentation, Mr. Moka. I thank you all for listening, and I thank the director and all her team and the panelists, especially that will come after me, and we welcome questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, during the course of Milord's presentation, there was the first poll that was flashed across the screen, and I'm sure that you all participated. We're going to display the results of that poll so you have an idea of how we're going. Release the poll, please. Now, as you can see, the question was, how would you rate the effectiveness of ADR in improving access to justice? And you can see that the results show that 48% of respondents feel that it's very good. Thank you. Now, move on very quickly to remarks by the LMDC acting chairman. Honorable Justice O.O. Pedro is the acting chairman of the LMDC Governing Council. For those of you who do not know, she's one of my favorite judges in Lagos. She had a checkered career rising through the ranks of the magistracy before being appointed a judge in 2001. She runs her court with a motherly heart, giving all parties who appear before her a clear feeling that equity and justice would be dispensed evenly. Please join me in welcoming Honorable Justice O.O. Pedro, who will speak to us for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My Lord, the Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State, Honorable Justice Kasim Olanrewaju Alugba. My Lord, distinguished panelists and Honorable Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, my Lord, the Admin Judge, Chairman of the Settlement Week, my Lord, other distinguished panelists here present, Your Honors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a privilege to be here this morning to share a brief history and background of the LMDC. Now, the multi-door courthouse concept was initiated by the Negotiation and Conflict Management Group, NCMG, and presented to the judiciary and the legal community nationwide. The launch of the Lagos Multi-door Courthouse, the first connected ADR center in Africa, was in year 2002. And when you look at your screen, you will see the mission and the vision of the Lagos Multi-door Courthouse. The mission of the LMDC is to provide qualitative access to justice through effective, timely, and user-friendly ADR channels. The vision is to achieve a maximum of 60 days, case turnaround time, and the settlement of 80% of cases mediated at the LMDC by the end of 2020. The core values of the LMDC, you can see it on the screen: professionalism, client-centric, honesty, personal integrity, teamwork, accountability, and ownership. What are the objectives of the LMDC? Section 2 of the LMDC law provides for those objectives. That is LMDC law 2015. One, to enhance access to justice by providing alternative mechanisms to supplement litigation in the resolution of disputes. 2, minimize citizen frustration and delays in justice delivery by providing a standard legal framework for the fair and efficient settlement of disputes through alternative dispute resolution. 3, serve as the focal point for the promotion of alternative dispute resolution in Lagos State. And 4, promote the growth and effective functioning of the justice system through alternative dispute resolution methods. So many services are available, ADR services, and that's the High Court of Lagos State Civil Procedure Rules actually provides for spinning for ADR. You have the ADR process units, ADR track offices, and the Lagos Settlement Week, Section 40 of the Lagos Multi-door Court Law set aside a week, is to set aside a week by the Honorable Chief Judge for the referral of cases to the LMDC for amicable resolution. Now we have the LMDC ADR doorways through mediation, arbitration, highly neutral evaluation, and hybrids. And how can you initiate a matter? A matter will usually be initiated at the LMDC in any of the following ways. One, you have the court referred. If the matter is court referred, the applicant will usually come in with an enrollment of order form from the referring judge. Then you have the working matters. If a matter is working matter, the applicant or his counsel will come in as inquirers, requesting for the service of the LMDC. And then we have the one of direct intervention. This is where the LMDC brings in a matter by directly intervening and inviting the parties to the LMDC. And when you look at your screen, you can see the LMDC ADR unit at a glance. You can see the ACCPR ADR track at a glance. They are all listed there in order to save us time. The Lagos Settlement Week at a glance, you can see the case identification, case screening, notification to parties by the court, and so on. Now, what are the performance indicators? And this is yearly statistics. And this runs from 2002 to 2019. We have number of cases which were received from inception, 14,125. Number of cases referred from the courts, 11,022. Number of working cases is 3,103. Number of full submission cases, we have 10,596 cases. Number of cases mediated, 9,189 cases mediated. Number of settled cases, we have 5,489 cases. And we have a settlement rate of 60%. Now, the LMDC advocacy and education training. Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, we have the mediation skills training, MST, mentorship and induction program, introduction to mediation advocacy training, alternative dispute resolution workshop, which is meant for law school students. And then you have the neutral sparring. Now, success stories of the LMDC. One, the resolution of 5,489 cases from its inception. I mentioned that earlier. Two, the speedy recovery of the sum of 37,623,745,133 naira 43 kobo in monetary claims within 5 years. Three, a land case which has been in court for about 38 years was resolved just one mediation sitting during the LSW 2019 program. Four, 6 other land cases in the court docket for more than 10 years. They were resolved at the LSW 2019 program. 5, an administration of estate case that had been in court for about 29 years. It was resolved in 2 mediation sittings at the LSW 2018 program. 6, 5 cases for dissolution of marriage, they were settled. And the spouses withdrew their petitions and discontinued their cases in court at the LSW 2017, 2018, and 2019 programs, respectively. And 7, a case with a bank with a claim of over 1.6 million naira was settled in just 2 mediation sittings at the LSW 2017 program. Finally, I wish to say that the success of the first online settlement month 2020 program in Africa will be a collaborative effort of the key stakeholders. Thank you very much. God bless you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Milord. You have heard it from the acting chairman of the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. The success that the LMDC has had over the years in resolving disputes in Lagos. Thank you, Milord. Now, we will be bringing on the person who's charged with the responsibility of the day-to-day management of the Lagos multi-door courthouse. Mrs. Adeyinka Aroyanwo, not many people know, Mrs. A, as I fondly call her, is a very senior lawyer. She was called in 1985 and has managed over the years to pack an MBA in business administration and marketing and LLM into her portfolio before changing track and going to do a specialized certificate course in arbitration and mediation at the International Law Institute in Washington. She has brought a verve and energy and never say never vibe to the Lagos multi-door courthouse. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Adeyinka Aroyanwo, the director of LMDC, to speak to us for 10 minutes on the effectiveness of online dispute resolution, the successes and challenges. Welcome, madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muka. I don't know where you got all that information from, Mr. Muka. Where did you get that from? Well, I want to say thank you for coming to everybody. Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yes, good morning, everybody. I'd like to stand on all protocols. Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State, the Admin Judge of Lagos State, also the Chairman of the Lagos Settlement Committee, the Chairman, Acting Chairman, Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse Governing Council, Honorable Justice Pedro, and I stand on all existing protocols. I want to say thank you to all panelists and thank you to all participants for honoring us today and participating in this webinar that is in preparation for the first online settlement month in Africa. I'd like to talk very, very quickly about the experience of the LMDC in online dispute resolution. Of course, I'll talk about the benefits and the challenges, and then I'll talk about the experience of the LMDC. What did we do, when the COVID-19 struck? What happened? So online dispute resolution itself is just an area of dispute resolution which uses technology to facilitate the resolution of disputes between parties. So simply put, we can say it is alternative dispute resolution techniques over the internet. And the aim of ODR specifically is to increase access to justice. Because of course you'll find out that if they want physical mediation or physical ADR, you'll find out that if they can't come, that hinders access to justice. So we found out, for example, at the Lagos Multi-Door, people who come in wheelchairs, people who have had stroke, who are ill, will have to go downstairs in the car park, put them on the wheelchair, on our own chair, and then carry the chair upstairs so that they can participate in the mediation process. So with online dispute resolution, all that isn't necessary anymore. So it just provides access to justice for people who can't come and provides speedy and fair resolution to as many individuals as possible using technology. It's not new, it's been around. In fact, the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, we've been using online dispute resolution. It's just that we've not done it on a large scale. We've been doing it for disputes of people who are not in the country, and then the mediation has to go on. But we found out that the COVID-19 has made online dispute resolution a global thing. It's been around, but more and more people and more countries all over the world are now using ODR. Now, what are the benefits of ODR? It is friendly. Aside from it is user-friendly, simple, it is accessible, easy to use. One of the benefits is the instant presence of parties and their representatives. Because one typical excuse that parties used to give us is that they are out of town, they are not available, they are not around, they are stuck in traffic. With the ODR, you cannot use traffic as an excuse. You cannot use the fact that you are not in town as an excuse. All over the world, people participate in programs virtually. Then avoidance of complex jurisdictional issues. Whether the court has jurisdiction to hear a dispute or not, since the parties can bind themselves to resolve their dispute through an agreement, the issue of jurisdiction can actually be avoided altogether. Then speed and efficiency. the speed which information with which information flows, in ODR now helps disputes to get resolved faster. The usual delays experienced with the exchange of information between disputing parties are reduced with ODR. When we're talking about the challenges of ODR, we will see a little bit of contradiction here, because in Nigeria we have network issues. Exchange of documentation and communication. Through ODR, documents can now be uploaded online, saving the cost of physical delivery of processes and documents. Parties can now proceed, directly, immediately into their dispute resolution process. And then there's minimal physical contact and equality of parties, where ODR reduces physical contact between the parties. This is good if you look at the COVID-19 pandemic. And then aside from the pandemic, there might also be a case where there is danger of physical violence or emotional trauma on the party. Maybe they don't want to see each other face to face. So those are the kind of benefits, that we have in respect of online dispute resolution. Of course, there are more. Because of my time, I would just go to the very important ones. Now, what challenges are there for online dispute resolution? The first thing is technological inequalities, because online dispute resolution, you definitely need to have technological gadgets. You need to have a basic knowledge of how to even operate technology. We have found out that from experience that not many people are tech savvy. They just don't know how to use technology, and that's actually the problem. Secondly, we have infrastructural challenges. The basic structures that support the operation of ICT networks and equipment are insufficient in Nigeria. One of the basic things is electricity. From experience, when mediation is going on, the whole thing just blacks out on the side of one of the parties. When he comes back on, he says, oh, he had an electricity power cut. There's a power failure or something. So with ODR, electricity is important. It's a crucial aspect. And so one of the challenges is the basic infrastructure and equipment in Nigeria. We also have data protection and confidentiality issues, because the use of ODR involves issues bordering on integrity, security, and confidentiality. And as we all know, mediation is a very sensitive and confidential process. So without data protection, without protection, it's a problem. A lot of people would want a situation, when you say mediation is confidential, they would want their mediation that going on online to also be confidential. So cases where anybody can just barge into a virtual meeting is not something that is welcome. And of course, we've heard of a case of a very big organization in Nigeria who had a very confidential management meeting, and the next day they saw everything in their management meeting, they saw it on social media. They had to start denying that they never took that kind of decision. So, one has to be very careful concerning confidentiality issues online. One of the ways that can be resolved is for the mediator to quickly tell the parties, that it's a confidential process. They must be the only one in the room. The mediator should probably tell them about the webcam, that they should put it on. He wants to see, how many people are there. Should disable recording, and all that. There are things that can be done to ensure that it remains a confidential process. Then the digital divide. A lot of Nigerians don't have access to internet service. They don't. In fact, 28.3% of the country's population are internet users. What happens to the rest of the people? What happens if they have a dispute and they have to resolve online? So the way, the government needs to ensure that internet connectivity is everywhere. I must commend the Lagos State government. I'm sure everybody must have seen the fiber cable. I think it's red, yellow, and green, like all over Lagos. It's internet. The Lagos State government is partnering with a foreign company, I think, to ensure that internet is everywhere. So by the time they finish that project, at least most of Lagos will have stable internet, and that is really welcome. And of course, the last thing is the legal framework. a lot of, we don't have the legal framework to back online dispute resolution, and that is something that we have to work towards as quickly as possible. Now, what has been the experience of the LMDC? Let me quickly go over this. Now, end of March, we had nearly 100 cases that were ongoing at the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. And then April came and nobody could go out. So really and truly, in April, nothing happened. All we did was brainstorming in-house. You know, what are we going to do with these cases? What are we going to do with mediation? Mediation, you know, mediators usually come, it's usually a physical process. So what are we going to do? We were brainstorming inside. So the first thing we did was to create forms to initiate ODR process, so that you don't have to come into the LMDC to file your matter. And we linked those forms to the website of the LMDC. Then we developed ODR guidelines. What we did is we did a research of ODR guidelines of organizations worldwide. And then we came up with with one for the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse for mediators, parties, and counsel. And the guidelines, of course, included requirements for ODR for our mediators. Then we started making one-on-one calls to all the parties and counsel of the ongoing cases, the nearly 100 cases, to request if they were interested in virtual mediation. Some of them said yes, some of them said no. Then we started scheduling ODR practice sessions, because we couldn't just let mediators start virtual sessions without any practice, without any training. So we started scheduling ODR practice sessions on Zoom for mediators in batches before they mediated, just to ensure there was qualitative and seamless mediation process. We organized the general ODR training and an online mediation certification course in collaboration with ADR Point and ODR Europe for our LMDC mediators. We consistently engaged and communicated with mediators by holding neutral parties, you know, just to involve them in the ODR journey. Then we held online demonstrations of the ODR process with parties and counsel. We even emailed demo videos to parties who required further assistance with technology. We conducted a review of the LMDC practice direction on mediation procedure to include ODR mediation, just to give it legal backing and embrace the new normal. So, I mean, we had to look at the practice direction, and we said, look, we can't leave it the way it was. We need to include online dispute resolution processes in the practice direction. Then we had to change to a faster internet service provider to ensure seamless ODR sessions. One of the basic requirements of ODR, virtual mediation, is a fast internet. And that's something that is a bit, unfortunately, is a bit rare in Nigeria. Then our case managers, who are the case administrators, who are the people who manage those cases, we had to empower them. We had to, give them the resources to handle the virtual mediation. So we had laptops, data allowance, phone calls, because they had started making a lot of phone calls, and then they had to use data. They had to be, they are the ones who would call, who would be the first people to call the pre-session before the mediator comes in. So the few challenges we had was that some parties prefer face-to-face, some parties are not IT savvy, and we find using this ODR tool a challenge. And so we found out that some parties, they didn't even have the infrastructure. They didn't have laptops. Some people didn't even have smartphones. They just had the normal phone. So, there was no way. So we advise such parties, go to your counsel, to your lawyer's office, so that at least you can use your lawyer's infrastructure. Now, what have we done so far? I got statistics for July and August, and we found 64% of cases that were suitable for online dispute resolution. Now, and of course, about 36% were not suitable. So that tells us that actually most cases are suitable for online dispute resolution. But now the other story is this. We still need to look at infrastructure and empowering the citizenry. Now, the number of ongoing cases, 66% of ongoing cases, we have 13% that were settled, but 66% are still ongoing. And we believe that in those 66%, we're still going to have a large number of settled cases. But you see, what this tells us is that there is still a lot of infrastructure challenge. And that's what we see every day. People don't come on time into the room. This time, I don't know the kind of excuses they would give. They certainly can't say it's traffic. But we also see that network connectivity is a major problem, and it delays cases. It delays the mediation process because people just keep on going off the, the process. They keep on going off the internet, and the mediators can't see them anymore. And they say, oh, I have a network problem. Can we schedule it till next time? So those are the kind of challenges that we have, because I'm sure we would have had much more settled cases than we have at present. So of course, we can only, with the growth of technology, we can only expect further rise in the use of online dispute resolution. ODR in Nigeria is still at its early stage. For ODR to be successful, there needs to be more awareness. People need to know about it. And we all can be ambassadors of online dispute resolution. Lawyers, disputants, businesses, they need to be aware, to also create awareness for their own clients. So for the ODR to work effectively and efficiently, we need a good laptop, smartphone, or a tablet. We need a good and stable internet, and of course, backup power. And of course, we need to bridge the digital divide in Nigeria. Let everyone have access to technology and to internet. There's a need to create an enabling environment for the use of ODRs. There are some remote rural areas that don't have access to telecommunication services. It is also recommended, Honorable Chief Judge, that sanctions should be put in place for parties who are recalcitrant in trying the process. We are not saying we're going to force people, but it speaks to at least given the process a try. Whether we like it or not, technology is here to stay, and the future of justice is online dispute resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. A. That was brilliant. She spoke through the successes and the challenges. And clearly from our presentation, while there are a number of challenges, she has shown that ODR is the way to go. Now that we currently have over 400 participants at this webinar, and more are joining every moment. So please stay on the line, stay with us. I would now like to invite Mrs. Achere Cole, who's the Deputy Director of the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. Now, Mrs. Cole is a mediator, arbitrator, trainer, ADR consultant, and public policy specialist. As a lawyer with an MSc in public policy and management, she has brought invaluable expertise and insights into the LMDC teams. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Achere Cole, who will speak to us for 10 minutes on current technological trends in dispute resolution. Mrs. Cole, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moka. Honorable Chief Judge of Lagos State, the Attorney General of Lagos State, the Admin Judge, and my acting chairman of the Multi-Door Courthouse. I stand on all protocols. Thank you for joining us today. I've been asked to speak about current technological, the outlay of dispute resolution. And we'll be looking across board and taking technology in bits, so to speak, because there's so much out there when you look at technology and how it can influence dispute resolution. So we're going to look at the spectrum of dispute resolution on how from complaint handling all the way to case conclusion, and then look at, of course, basic requirements and see whether with all this kind of technology that is available to us, can we really say that we can use this kind of technology in our client. Let's look at complaint handling. You have activity monitoring applications, you have voice analysis aid communications, you have self-service chatbots, but I'll discuss one. The voice analysis aid communication, it analyzes the customer service representative and customers' voices to detect tone and emotion. So you can imagine if you have a caller coming in, a call coming in on the telephone, what happens is that, for instance, the IBM Watson tone analyzer for customer engagement, what it does is that it detects up to 7 types of tones, such as sadness, satisfaction, excitement, politeness, impoliteness, and sympathy. Let's look at this interchange between a customer and an agent. The customer called in and said, I know it rained in Ikorodu today, but why aren't you delivering arranged today? And the predicted tone was sadness. And that's what the tone analyzer does. It told the agent immediately that this customer was sad. Eventually, further down the line, you can see at a point, the customer became frustrated and said, can you tell me when my package will arrive? And the tone analyzer picked it up as frustration at 0.78. And the range is really from 0 to about a whole number of 1. And immediately the agent said, please give me the tracking number. This is what the tone analyzes. It's a software. Eventually, the agent said, your package will arrive today. And his own tone was excitement and politeness. And what that did for the customer is that he ended by saying thanks a lot, and his tone was satisfaction. That is what technology can do for your complaint handling. Let's look at case referral or case filing. In Lagos State and across the world really now, and even more so this year, between 2017, 2018, 2019, many jurisdictions started using judicial information systems. So you can file from anywhere in the world. All you need to do, for instance, we've used this as a case study, the judicial information system of Lagos State, is to register. So probably if you're counsel, you register on behalf of your client. Now for internal case management, you have practice management software. I'm not sure how many law firms are using this, but what it does for you across practice management, I just listed 3, Litify, Law Pavilion, Practice Panther. But the benefits are improved security, more efficient workflows, easier access to your data, which is major. So as against having files upon files, of cases, you can have access to your data in a one-stop shop. And the features are document management, client relationship management, case management, and a sync with your inbox. So that with your email tools, you also have signature tools, you have accounting tools. If you look to the right, you will see a picture which shows you across board how you can put together your entire accounting system, from the product to the opportunity, invoice, customer, and the items, complete in one. So that's where you have practice management software. For case evaluation, arbitration, you have the Case Explorer arbitration. It's typically used by AAA, that's the American Arbitration Association. What this does is that you can go to the AAA Case Explorer arbitration site and use the search tool and select 3 or 5 arbitrators by expertise and locale. Then provide your information, because for disclosure, the arbitrator needs to be able to disclose, do I know these people or not? You put in the information. The users draft their questions and insert it in the Case Explorer arbitration tool. The arbitrator's responses are collected and returned to the users. This typically, and you can also upload written and video content. This takes about 3 to 4 days, but however, you can see the cost is about $15,750 for 3 arbitrators. But then that will depend on the type of dispute and the quantum of the dispute. So some people might be willing to spend this kind of money just to find out what is the view of the arbitrators in advance or during arbitration. Then you also have cloud storage. We put this out here so that you can see the major thing you should be looking out for in cloud storage, because with dispute resolution now you have so many files. Recently in the multi-door course, we had to embark on an archiving system, physical one, but then we're moving into, because we had to have the physical first, and then we're moving into soft copies, electronic copies. But what is important is that you need to look at the terabyte. So you can look at this slide and you see that you have 5 terabytes, you have 2 terabytes, you have 6 terabytes, and then the cost implications of these vary. So you need to consider how much storage can you get out of all this, and what is the functionality, what do you need it for? That's what cloud storage devices can do for you. Now let's look at negotiation. Did you know that there's a tool called Smart Settle, which can help you with blind bidding? What Smart Settle does for you, it's a software. It's suitable particularly actually for disputes where a monetary amount constitutes the only issue for settlement. Parties agree, you have to agree, both parties, to be bound by any settlement reached through the Smart Settle procedure. And you agree on a zone of settlement. So if you look to your right, the zone of settlement that you can see there for the claimant was about $10,000. For the respondent, it was $16,000. And then the software begins to work on your proposals until it gets you to about $14,000. But if you don't work within this zone, you will start afresh. It's almost like, I don't know, it sounds like gambling, but it works because in this particular instance, the claimant had a hidden acceptance, it's blind bidding. The claimant had a hidden acceptance of $10,000, but eventually the claimant got $14,000. So instead of going back and forth on the negotiation table, you can actually use a tool like Smart Settle to help you resolve your disputes for negotiation. But I must say that you still need a facilitator to help you because it's a bit technical. Let's look at video conferencing applications. I am sure practically most of us here would have used either Zoom or Skype or Cisco WebEx or Hangout within this. If you hadn't used it before, this year would have been the year you would have used any of these video conferencing applications. But Zoom is one thing that the multi-door courthouse is using because for us, it's just an easy application to use. And they're all video conferencing, so you can interact and see your parties during mediation. Let's look at one particular tool of Zoom, not just Zoom. Other video conferencing applications have it also. It's called the breakout room. Now, I'll just play a short video to show you what you typically would look like, just the way you see, probably see the panelists on the screen. And this is the same thing that happens here. You see everybody in the screen and you're broken up into a room. Let's look at a short clip. I'll play it and then stop.
Hey everyone, Farah from Zoom here. On this brief video, we're going to show you how you can leverage our breakout room feature to take a large meeting or virtual classroom and split it up into.
So now everyone is in the same room just as we are. And then she's going to break them up into breakout rooms, yeah?
On this breakout
I'm going to move it forward. I'm going to move it forward so you can understand.
You'll see that I have already enabled the breakout room feature, which you can find in your settings along the breakout room button. Will actually be, or co-hosts will be able to see action if I manage my participant to make her a co-host. So she'll see this button as well. When we're ready to split the group, simply click this button to get a pop-up window asking me how many rooms I'd like to assign out and how many participants.
So she's breaking them up into different
rooms. For this example, recommending since there's 6 people, we can split it up into 2 rooms. I can do this automatically or manually. So if we click on the, certainly if there's anyone I want to swap out, maybe I want to move Michael to the other room, I can exchange him for a different participant. Once I'm ready to open all rooms, I'll click this open all rooms button and our participants will be able to join the sessions for them. So we'll slowly, one thing that's really important for a co-host, you can actually hop between the different rooms to talk to the participants. You can see here, I have the.
Okay, so you see what has happened. She's alone in the room, and that's what we call the main room. That is like your mediator who is now alone in the room. Where have the other people gone to? They've gone to different rooms. So what the breakout room does for you is that at some point in the mediation, you find yourself in a separate room, either alone with your client, that's counsel and client, or counsel and counsel. But the beauty about it is that it's private, it's confidential. Nobody can hear what is going on in that room, and it's all virtual. Only the mediator can get in and get out of the room, or the co-host, like she had said. By clicking on participants, you can see who is in the room. Nobody can bomb, into that room to say that. And there is a help feature. If you feel uncomfortable or anything, you click on the help feature, and the mediator will come to you, subsequently. So that's for video conferencing. How about case management ODR platforms? There's so many, they're numerous. You have Brav, you have CREC, you have Modrum Spaces, you have Kleros, Caseload Manager, ADR for all. What do they do? There are 2 main things that distinguish them. They're either synchronous or asynchronous. Now, if they're synchronous, it means that at the time the dispute is going on, or the dispute settlement is going on, it is happening synchronously. So if you speak to the party, they can respond to you. So for instance, like a telephone, that is synchronous communication. But emails are not synchronous communication. So these ODR platforms you see on the screen perform either synchronous communication or asynchronous communication. And what that does is entirely up to you. At what stage of the dispute are you in? Do I need emails at this point? Or do I need to engage them in a video conferencing? So ODR platforms do that for you in a nutshell. Some do only one, but some do both of them. You can choose, and it's important to do the important and necessary research before you use them. Now, how do you decide what ODR platforms to use? Cost. For us at the multi-door courthouse, it was a major issue, determining if we should even use an ODR platform because of the cost. It is quite expensive. But if you have a large scale of disputes, you would need it. Security, confidentiality, it is user-friendly. Those are the things you should consider. Can I use it? Can the parties use it? Can counsel use it? And also, can the meetings be recorded by anyone? You see, that's why we use Zoom. There's so many features. Of course, Cisco WebEx and many of them have the same kind of features. We just chose Zoom because it seems quite, the interface, and that's why I talk about user-friendly. The interface is very good and people can log on quite easily. And that's what we're using today anyway. And then can you control the features, you know, as the mediator? This is what you should consider when using ODR platforms. Now we're at case conclusion. At the end of the day, you need to sign an agreement. How do you sign? And the multi-door, we started out by using a scanner. We said all you need to have is a scanner. So once you get the terms of settlement, the case manager sends those terms of settlement over to the claimant, you know, by email. The claimant downloads that terms of settlement, signs it, and scans it back to the case manager. And the process continues until that document is completely signed. However, we've begun to have challenges with that because not everybody has a good scanner. So the signature might not be clear, you know. But now we're looking into things such as DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and Assure Sign. Let's see how this can work.
Anytime, from anywhere. Here's how it works. From any device, pick a document that needs to be signed, add people who need to sign it, then place the signature tag and indicate any fields like company name or phone number, and click send. Your recipient then receives an email asking them to sign. If they're a first-time DocuSign user, they can select a pre-drawn signature or choose to draw their own on a mobile device. Once the requested information is complete and the document is signed, everyone is alerted.
So that's how that works. So you can sign online. I'm sure there'll be many questions in your mind that, can I really do this? You know, but fortunately, our Evidence Act supports it. Evidence Act even supports an initial. I'm sure my Lord probably will lend in their voices later to this, you know, but at least for now, we can say the Evidence Act supports this, and we're going to start using this kind of system for signing our terms of settlement. So I've taken you from complaint handling all the way to case conclusion.
Anytime.
I will leave you with Sophia. I don't know if you've met her before. Sophia is a robot, and she's a citizen of Saudi Arabia. She imitates human gestures and facial expressions. She answers certain questions, and she makes conversation on predefined topics. We wonder where we'll be tomorrow, whether people like Sophia will begin to resolve, you know, our disputes. And finally, I have somebody who would like to say goodbye to you. His name is Titan, the robot. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking. Mr. Moka, thank you.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
How the rest of you feel?
I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I almost challenge.
Whether we like it or not, ODR is the way to
or not, ODR is the way to go.
Hand-holding us. Now, in the dispute resolution process, whether it's physical or online, the role of counsel to the parties cannot be overstated. It is so critical. Because of that, the NBA has a pivotal role to play in moving this process forward. The NBA president, Mr. Olumide Akpata, was invited to make a presentation. Now, I will say very quickly that prior to August 2020, I used to call him fondly Bros Olu, but now I must refer to him as Mr. Olumide Akpata, the president of the NBA. You all know that he won a very keenly contested election in July 2020, making history as the first commercial solicitor and first non-female advocate of Nigeria in many years to occupy that exalted office. And in the previous life, he was chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association on Business Law, and he clearly recognizes the critical role of dispute resolution in solving commercial disputes. Mr. Akpata has sent his apology. He has another assignment, but he has designated Mr. Godwin Omuaka, senior advocate of Nigeria, who's a senior partner at Templars Law Firm, to join us and make his presentation. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Godwin Omuaka, who will speak to us for 7 minutes on the role of counsel in online dispute resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for the introduction. And good afternoon, my lords, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Like Alex rightly pointed out, I've been mandated by the president of the NBA, Mr. Olumide Akpata, who unfortunately is stuck up in Abuja and is not able to be here, to speak on the role of counsel in ODR. Now, Mr. Akpata has prepared a speech, and as his representative, it's only fitting that I read the speech that he has prepared. So I will try to share my screen, and I hope you can all see my screen. Can you all see my screen now? Sorry. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is Mr. Akpata's presentation, and I'm just going to read it as is, so that I'm not accused of altering what he has specifically written. So the topic is the role of counsel in ADR. The role of counsel in online dispute resolution. Over the course of the past 6 months, Nigeria and indeed the world as a whole has experienced an unprecedented change to the normal mode of business operations, among other changes, which was brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. The spread of the pandemic greatly affected the operation of various economic sectors in Nigeria, including the judiciary. There was a sharp decline in judicial activities. The pandemic, however, brought about the urgent need to fully embrace virtual court sessions or mediation sessions around the world. This led to the adoption of ODR as the appropriate mechanism for alternative dispute settlement in these crimes. Now, the role of counsel in ODR shall be examined in 2 segments. The first being pre-mediation, and the second being mediation, pre-mediation. The role played by counsel before the mediation session fits into whether or not the outcome of the process will favor the client. Parties in a dispute look up to their counsel for guidance and advice in order to get the best outcome from a mediation session. A lawyer has a legal duty to educate his clients about the mediation process, the advantages and requirements of ODR, and what should be expected by the client in the mediation session. Consequently, a lawyer has to be accustomed with the mediation process, physical and virtual, and it is advisable that all lawyers should undertake the mediation advocacy training. Which one of the trainings available at the LMDC? Counsel or law firms are also advised to purchase the required gadgets and, if possible, make available spaces in their office where clients who have internet issues or are not techie savvy can join them for the online mediation sessions. This is to ensure full participation of all stakeholders. Some of the requirements for online mediation are reliable power supply, access to stable internet service, a laptop, tablet, Android phone with microphone and camera, Zoom platform, and Zoom platform. Now, the second method, mediation. The role of a counsel during online mediation is not far different from their role during a physical mediation. Mediation is said to be a party-driven process, but the parties' confidence is built when their lawyers are present to advise and guide them by doing the following. The lawyer is to ensure that their clients attend all sessions in a timely fashion. Counsel should also assist in defining the issues to be resolved to avoid time wasted on trying to identify the actual issues in disputes. Counsel should try to maintain a supportive, cooperative demeanor and demonstrate commitment to the mediation process through their words and actions. They should not treat the mediation as an adversarial process or as a means for finding the truth. Instead, they should acknowledge the fact that finding solutions is the most important aspect of the process. They should provide private normative advice to their clients about the benefits and risks of specific proposals. They are to act as agents of reality by helping the client to balance the risks of accepting or rejecting settlement offers and the potential complications of presenting the case to a third party for judgment, as well as the time, stress, and expense involved in pursuing resolution by trial. Counsel should help manage the process by asking for breaks, for opportunities to speak privately with the client, or help clarify issues in private meetings with the mediator. They can also assist clients to communicate by summarizing discussions or by providing clarification on confusing issues where miscommunication is preventing constructive resolution of the issues or leading to additional conflict. Counsel should help clients stay focused on the issue at hand, the information presented, and options for settlement, while encouraging their clients to remain calm and avoid getting overwhelmed by an adversarial party or getting frustrated over the pace of progress of the mediation. Counsel should also encourage clients to find creative solutions for resolving disputes. They can also assist in drafting the mediated settlement terms when required. The benefit of the ODR to the legal profession. Now, ordinarily, most lawyers over 40 years old prefer not to learn how to use any new communication technology interface. Nevertheless, all lawyers must be seen to adapt to the challenging times and must embrace new technological interfaces because current and future clients are demanding it. The forward-thinking lawyer must learn to communicate with clients and potential clients in ways that each client wants to be communicated with. Remarkably, more clients are now inquiring about the possibility of using online dispute settlement mechanism as an alternative to physical convening at a particular location, especially when they reside at a geographic distance from the multi-door courthouse. The legal profession in particular understands that the need to adapt to changing times and recognizes the need to keep up with client expectations and desires. Therefore, lawyers are not just required to drive the ODR revolution merely for the sake of innovation. Rather, there is a need for us to jump on the ODR wagon as a matter of urgency and encourage all our current and future clients to adopt its usage in order for us to continue to be relevant. Easy access to justice and speedy resolution of cases are greatly beneficial to the reputation of a lawyer or a law firm because we face less pressure to reduce our rates when we can demonstrate to our clients that their cases can be resolved speedily. Also, in this age, where branding is paramount, possessing a reputation for knowing how to get the earliest possible beneficial settlement is a great way to develop business. Now, in conclusion, the transition from advocacy to advice collaboration can be difficult and unsettling for many lawyers, most especially when this is to be done virtually, because the counsel and his client may be in different locations. However, in recognition of the fact that their clients will benefit from this collaborative role, as well as the fact that mediators appreciate their constructive participation, counsel should embrace online mediation as they would a physical mediation process. We should make the most of the unique attributes of ODR process in achieving a beneficial resolution of disputes for our clients in record time. In managing the transition to mediation advocacy, lawyers will benefit from additional educational programs and seminars where they can learn to use their knowledge, experience, and skills to support their clients' participation in the online mediation process. The expansion of the mediation process to encompass online mediation as against the previous usage of only physical mediation may have its own challenges, but the rewards are worth the investment of the time and energy of all stakeholders in the process. Thank you very much. That is the conclusion of the speech by the president of the NBA. Thank you very much. And I hope
thank you very much.
I hope I have delivered his message, Alex.
You have very creditably too. Thank you very much, Mr. Godwin Omaka, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. One stand that I took from your presentation was your statement about the transition. Oh, sorry, the result of the last poll has just been flashed on. And it's interesting that 70% of respondents say yes, that they do advise clients to use ODR. That's very instructive. And I mean, kudos to Cancel. Yeah, I was saying that one thing that I took from Mr. Omaka's presentation was his comment that the transition from advocacy to advice collaboration can be difficult and unsettling. And that's an interesting way of speaking to the role that Cancel have in the ODR process. It must be seen as a transition from advocacy to advice collaboration. Thank you, sir. Now, we've heard from Cancel. We now want to hear from the other side, the users of the process itself. Ms. Idiemi Adeika is a mediator. She's also a director of International Energy Insurance, PLC. She describes herself simply as a financial and legal advisory consultant. Now, this brief bio hides a number of things. She's a lawyer of 34 years post-call experience who has been in and out of practice several times. She's a banker of 22 years experience who was managing director of a bank for 1.5 years in 2016 during banking consolidation exercise. And she's been a mediator for 15 years, whose forte is banking disputes. Wow. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Adeyinka, who will be speaking to us for 10 minutes on the role of corporate executives in online dispute resolution. Thank you, madam.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am here at the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. Okay, great. I'm back online. Right. I'm sorry about this. I need to switch off my other system. My apologies, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to be speaking to you basically on the role of corporate executives in online mediation. We all know what the pandemic has done to date. And what has happened is that a lot of our corporate executives have not been able to attend mediations because they're too busy to do so. I'm having a bit of technology challenge here, so I'm hoping that my people will be here to assist me. I'm at the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. Thank you very much. Right now, I'm going to be speaking, looking at
What about the sharing? What about the sharing? Our phone, this is our phone. Is she using the
this is really challenging.
I'm sorry, we have a slight hitch with
Please bear with me. Please bear with me, because I'm trying to pull up my slides now to share with you.
While she's coming on, I will remind participants to please post your questions on the Q&A chat box on your device. We will not be taking questions live. Please post your questions and we'll then call them up and answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm back online now, and I can share my file with you if you don't mind. Great, thank you. This is just one of the things that can happen during a mediation. Now, what is the role of the corporate executive? It is very critical to the survival of the organization. Even more so as we have all experienced COVID-19 pandemic, which has redefined the operating model and the process of the organizations. Now, it has caused a shift to more engines, virtual operations, leveraging technology to deliver a lot of the services that companies are delivering to their customers or their clients. Issue resolution is not left out in this change. Discussing the migration to online resolution, as we have seen demonstrated by the code. Corporate executives need to embrace this change. So they are not left out. We are organizing this seminar to speak to the public, say that there's a big role that they have to play, and that role is very critical to a lot of what we do here. Now, I'm looking at the nature of disputes that we have. Most of the disputes that we have are basically and you see the number. A lot of times, there is no executive support needed to close on settlements. Now, I'm going to move on to the next one, which talks about the corporate dynamics. Now, how does a corporate executive look at the issue of dispute and how to approach resolution? There's only one thing for them. They're looking at the revenue side of their accounts, and they're looking at the cost aspect of it. So a corporate executive is saying to himself, why should I devote my time and my energy to attending mediation sessions? The corporate executive is constantly looking to strategic management of corporate performance, value addition, resource allocation, maximizing profit, and reducing costs. Now, the focus and the perception is that time plus resources translate to profit, whereas time and litigation translates to cost. For the executive, litigation is a cost. So what does he do? He allocates his executive time and resources to only those activities that generate revenues for him. And this is what they call the 80-20 rule. He takes his resources and engages those resources to only the 80% that he engages his 20% to those 80% that generates the 80% of the result for him. Ultimately, for the corporate executive, it's still all about the line. So the question then becomes, how do we get them to come to the table? How do we get them to be part of that process that helps us score a higher rate of resolution in our disputes? Now, why do we need to refocus the corporate executive? It's a simple thing, so that we can have better success. We need to get them to shift their mindset to adopt ODR. Now, ODR saves time, it saves cost. It impacts the bottom line. What do I mean by impacts the bottom line? When you devote that time and energy to ODR, you find that things are done much quicker and faster. And the result, assuming, for instance, a bank has provisioned some part of that loan, which by regulatory requirement he's supposed to do. The minute he's able to close on settlement in a mediation, he's able to take that money back into his profits. Now, it is convenient because you can sit in the comfort of your executive office and attend the mediation session. There's also something very important, which is the executive control over the outcome of the dispute. I would take that in the next slide. There's also the issue of client retention, because when you retain your clients, it automatically translates to your clients. It automatically translates to your retention of your clients. Now, it is very important for us to look at this because clients are the ones who deliver the revenues to you. So if you are retaining your clients, then you are getting better revenues from those clients. Now, let's look at the issue of confidentiality. The confidentiality between the customer and the bank or whatever organization is preserved. It's preserved in the sense that a lot of times when you get into litigations, these things are out in the open, and this is just what you want to avoid. Then public perception is another thing that you need to worry about. That we need to make them understand why they need to be there. If a corporate executive says to himself, if I adopt ODR, then people will see me as a very amenable, friendly organization. The suppliers, the clients, everybody, the vendors, everybody who deals with you looks at you and says, this is the organization to do with. They are not a contentious set of people, or it is not a contentious organization. I'm going to move on straight on to something else again, which is looking at the control aspect of it. Now, why do we want the corporate executive to be able to control what he's, to have that control at mediation sessions? They can control the outcome. The ability to write the terms of settlement, your desired terms of settlement, what exactly you want to see in your settlement, that ability lies with the key decision maker. And if that person is not in the room, it becomes a problem for everybody. Now, I'll give you a case in point. We had a situation in LMDC where we had a 2 billion naira loan recovery that was at stake. Parties were present. Reconciliation was at the core of this dispute. But the interesting thing was that there were so many other issues that they clouded, that weighed us down at the resolution table. But what then happened is that even prior to this, we had regulatory action, which complicated the issues for the parties. So what did the parties do? They resorted to litigation. So what we then had was this multiplicity of court cases. But the way out of that quagmire for us was that we simply made a call to a corporate executive, this time the finance director, who happened to be on an official visit in Singapore. And with that single phone call, we were able to not only make progress on the reconciliation, we were able to close in terms of settlement. Not only did we close in terms of settlement, the customer remained with the bank. In some cases, you have the customers very upset and they leave the bank because of the way they've been treated. But in this case, the customer was retained in the bank. But the icing of the cake is the fact that all the multiplicity of actions, all those actions that they filed as a result of dissatisfaction, regulatory pronouncement, and so on and so forth, they were all taken out of the court because of that single resolution. Now, we have looked at this and we're saying to ourselves, this then becomes a win-win for the corporate executive. If he can write his own resolution, it's a win-win. If the other party is also amenable to and seeing the person in the room, it is a win-win for them. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the executive support at these sessions. There's no gainsaying the fact that when a corporate executive attends an ODR, it commands the attention and commitment of the parties to the dispute and to looking towards a resolution of that dispute. Sessions are shorter and negotiations are faster because the key decision maker is in the room. In addition to that, adequate knowledge, there's adequate knowledge because this person obviously has a thorough understanding of the underbelly of the transactions that led to the dispute. And the documents that are needed, cases not made at mediation, but this person gives a directive and says, let those documents come out, and they are timely. You also have a higher chances of success, of settlement, with the presence of the key decision maker. In addition to that, it lends credence to and validates the ODR process. It says a lot about that organization when the corporate executive is there. It says that these are the people to watch. These are the pace setters. These are the ones who are defining the new way of doing business. These are the ones who prefer ADR to litigation. It speaks volumes. It enables effective participation in cross-border disputes. I don't want to get into this because this is quite a substantial topic on its own. Now, what again do we need the corporate executive to do for us? A policy change. We're looking for a policy change that is direct, that is deliberate, that addresses the issue. What do we want? We want them to entrench ODR as an organizational culture. It must be the very first option in resolution of any dispute, which means everybody in the organization must embrace it and say to themselves, I must negotiate my way out of this dispute rather than going to court. The other bit is to embed ODR in a contractual agreement. And this is very interesting because one of the cases in which I mediated, we had a particular bank, the department called, the legal department called me and said, look, we want to embed ODR in one of our agreements with one of our vendors. And can we designate LMDC as a mediation center? I said, of course, in a hurry, I said, of course. But again, I remembered I have a boss, the director of LMDC. So I put a call through to her and I said, please, can they designate LMDC as a mediation center? She said, of course they can do that. So I went back and said, oh, I just confirmed from the director, you can actually do that. And this is telling you how executives are thinking. And this is what we want them to do. Begin to embed it in their contractual agreements. And in engaging external counsel, my apologies to all the counsel that are in the house. This is not trying to take your job from you, but it's actually better because the more cases you do, the better, the more turnover you have with such organizations, the shorter the gestation period of those litigations. What I'm saying is that these lawyers, our counsel, my fellow colleagues, they have to come out and embrace ODR. And that means also that in approaching the organization, the corporate executives makes ODR, makes a statement, a deliberate policy statement saying ODR is the preferred choice for dispute resolution. Now, we talk about the staff, the vendors, the suppliers, the counterparties. Everybody must be aware of it. And there must be some level of compliance. There must be something, an engine or a system in place that would ensure that there's compliance to looking at ODR as an alternative to litigation. Now, in conclusion, my recommendation to the corporate executives who are in the house listening to me, apart from what I have said already, is that it becomes a very useful tool in your hands because it begins to define the way you move forward. It begins to define the way you do business with customers. It also begins to define how you approach your profitability, your bottom line. If you can save money, if you can save costs, and it impacts your bottom line positively, then this is what you need to do. The business environment is very dynamic, and we all know that competition is very steep, and the margins are shrinking by the day. So for an organization to stay ahead and afloat, the corporate executive has to leverage technology in all aspects of business and operations. ODR offers the system, maximize profit, represents a win-win situation for corporate executives. Thank you all for listening to me. My apologies again for the initial disruptions we had earlier on. Thank you for listening.
Your decision was made in account of your dual capacity as a banker, as a lawyer. Now,
we have an interesting presentation from somebody who's joining us all the way from South Africa. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of the name Accord. Now, I'm not talking about the Honda Accord car, one of Honda's most successful models. I mean, you're very familiar with that. No. The acronym Accord stands for the African Center for Constructive Resolution of Disputes, Accord. And we have joining us all the way from South Africa, Mr. Clifford Collins, who is the Chief Operating Officer and Mediator of Accord. Okay, now Accord is a civil society organization working throughout Africa to bring creative African solutions to the challenges posed by conflicts on the continent. And you didn't hear that from me. You will hear that directly from the horse's mouth. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Clifford Collins, who will give us remarks from his organization. Thank you.
Your system just wanted, you know, just before I was called in. It's your bandwidth, you know, I told you bandwidth was.
Thank you very much for the welcome. And let me just say thank you for this opportunity to be part of this esteemed panel who are participating in this very, very interesting discussion.
Thank God I was able to put it back.
So I will begin by talking a little bit about Accord firstly. Secondly, I will then just speak a little about why I think online dispute resolution is that important. And also I'll just talk a little bit about South Africa and in the situation in South Africa, how dispute resolution is actually managed. So just a little bit about Accord, that Accord actually is been around for the last 28 years. And as the facilitator has said, that we work throughout Africa and we bring about innovative solutions within Africa. We have developed a process which has been recognized by the United Nations. And we, as in September 2005, Accord was the first NGO in the history of the United Nations Security Council to address the council. So this is a feat for us. This is a wonderful thing that we've been able to do. We've worked in a number of countries within Africa. Certainly the DRC, its peace process, Madagascar, Sudan, CAR, and a whole range of countries, Burundi, etc. So we've been out there and we've been working to bring peace, and we've trained over 19,000 people in Africa, soldiers, peacekeepers, in negotiations and how to engage with each other in a peaceful way and trying to bring peace within Africa. So that's what we do, and this is what we are all about as an organization. We are obviously an NPO. Now, somebody had said this, a private mediator actually said this. Everybody says technology can't possibly change what I do. Then boom, technology disrupts you out of existence. So if you do not get involved in technology, if you don't embrace technology, you will find yourself catching up a little bit later. So I think the previous speakers have spoken quite a lot about this particular thing. I also want to emphasize the key thing about online dispute resolution. And of course, we must concern ourselves with our environment. And then, and so I want to share something which is specific around India. In India, 11 billion sheets of paper are used every year in Indian courts. The green cost of usage is 1.3 million trees and 109 billion liters of water. Now you can imagine if you expand it throughout the world to every single country, the amount of how we are affecting the environment because we're using the paper environment and not moving to a technology. So we can play a role in changing the environment and contributing to climate change in one particular way. I further want to emphasize another point, which is access to justice. So one of the key things we found that within Africa, mobility and technology. Now we know that anywhere between 30% and 55% of sub-Saharan Africa's urban residents are classified as living in poverty. And even greater, a larger percentage, 72%, actually live in densely populated slums where roads are generally unpaved. So now they have to transport themselves to courts or whatever the case might be. And many people, 75%, actually walk to and from the destination out of necessity, not because they need to for fun or anything like that, but out of necessity. The cost of transport is also not affordable. So, but we find that many Africans have access to technology in whatever form it is, whether it's the cell phone, albeit that most people have access to cell phones in one way more than they do to internet. So they do have some access to online communications in one form or the other. So those are the two things I just wanted to say with regards to multi-technology. So for me, ultimately, ODR is online dispute resolution is an umbrella term which embraces and describes dispute resolution process that are assisted by information technology, IT, ultimately. So that is what the understanding is for me. Having said that, I'm now just going to go quickly to look at the various things that we have within South Africa when it comes to dispute resolution, the various platforms that actually exist. There is, of course, the e-commerce, and I think that Mrs. Cole referred pretty much to that, the technology that exists that is almost automatic. You put in a question, it automatically responds, etc. So I'm not going to speak about that, but because it was already mentioned. And neither am I going to speak about private mediation, because I think that the audience generally understands that. But I would say a few things about court and next mediation in South Africa. I'll also speak a little bit about public mediation, which is in the CCMA, and I'll explain what that is, the Ombudsman, and tribunals. These are the various things that actually exist. So the court and next mediation, what is this? Really, what is it in South Africa? There are many cases. The court role is massive, and the courts cannot manage and deal with these various cases. So what happens is that in a pilot phase within South Africa, in a number of places, several cases, and access to justice, people can actually go to the court, and if their cases are of the nature that it can be resolved through disputes, it's encouraged. And the parties then choose a mediator who facilitates in a reconciliatory manner, and then that allows for promotes justice. It reduces the amount of court cases on the one hand, but it also reduces the cost. This is very important. That's the kind of thing. However, it still needs to move towards online dispute resolution. So this is the kind of thing that we need to follow in terms of what is happening right there in the multi-door courthouse in Lagos. But let me just say something about what is the CCMA is the next thing that I spoke about. Basically, it's the Commission for the Conciliation and Mediation and Arbitration, CCMA. It deals with dispute resolution throughout the labor environment. And what that does is that it offers specialization for disputes which are specialized in terms of the law, the Labor Act, etc., and specialists then are able to mediate in those cases. Now, what happened during lockdown, which is interesting, is that the average cases, maybe just to pause to say the average amount of cases per day is about 783 cases per day that goes to the CCMA. That is massive. So, and we therefore means that we have to have the capability to manage that kind of thing. But what happened is that when COVID came along, what people then realized that we need to continue. And therefore, they issued directives to say that we can do this mediation and facilitation and conciliation through technical means. So they utilize the telephones, they use laptops, and any other means that people have. And this helped, of course, ensuring that the cases were actually proceeding and actually happening on a regular basis. So the lockdown helped them to move in a direction of technology. It's important to know that authentication of documents, etc., is important to the process. So that's the other part about it. The Labor Court also did exactly the same. So the Labor Court began to do these types of cases online because people couldn't come to the courts, etc. Now we have another area where they do mediation, conflict resolution, which is done through the Ombudsman, and we have a number of them. So they are, the excellent thing about it, let me just say, is that this service is free. So they are legislated, and when an individual has a problem with a certain body or organization, etc., they're able to go through the Ombudsman. Now, there are a number of these Ombudsman associations. They like the one for short-term insurance, long-term insurance, banking services. Wherever you've got problems, the tax, as you can see, pension fund adjudicators and so on. So there's a whole range. And what this does is to say, you need a specialist who understands short-term insurance, you understand credit, you understand tax. So they're specialists in terms of the mediation that is being applied. Now, if you test these things to be able to apply for your problems, you will see it can be done online. So you submit your complaint online, you submit it through to everybody, and they're able to see, process that. They engage with the other part. They might come back to you technically, etc. They might want to engage you further, but it's done online. So that's a lot of it is done online to help in terms of the processes. Then, of course, I'm just going to mention the tribunals. Pretty much they have adjudication process. They are able to give adjudicate on issues, but it's very cost efficient also. And we have a whole range, and I've just mentioned a few that there is in South Africa, the companies tribunal. There's also the media one, which is not mentioned here. Then we have the communications, the ICASA, the competition tribunal, the rental housing tribunal, a whole range of tribunals which help in conflict resolution within South Africa. Now, just to be able to say to you though, that the key thing is that we must understand that online dispute resolution is fundamental for us, and it would help and give access to people who don't have access to courts. It'll contribute towards climate change, but also I just want to add, it is the need for specialization to make sure the tracks that is being chosen to dispute resolution is in line with the type of complaint and the specialities in these various areas. And the dispute resolution partners are not necessarily people who come from the legal fraternity, because you can have somebody who's a civil engineer who's also trained in terms of mediation, who then can deal with these things. Thank you very much, I must say, to the Lagos River for inviting us. I really appreciate this moment. Our court really appreciates this moment with you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. That was you who are following the comments in the chat box will see that by and large, participants are very pleased with the quality of presentations. And interestingly, we call this a webinar, but it really has been more of a workshop. So we will ensure that we get the copy of the presentations across to you, and will all be posted on the LMDC website. Now, because this is a workshop, you will agree with me that we must hear from the academia. The last, but definitely not the least panelist is somebody I personally hold very dear. Those of us who finished from the great Lagos State University in the heady days of its glory many years ago, it's an even greater school now, will remember the next speaker very, very well. Now, at that time, she was not a professor, but she was one of our most brilliant lecturers. I haven't to fathom is how she has managed to remain exactly the same in physical appearance over a space of 30 years. When I knew her back in LASU in those days, I was a young teenager, and you can see that I'm now all grown and gray. But Professor Ayodele Asenua has remained the same person physically. Please join me in welcoming the Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos, who will give us remarks from the academic community. Welcome, Professor Ayodele Asenua. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Moka. I think there's a question here. Someone's asking UNILAG or LASU. Well, Mr. Moka was right when he referred to LASU. In fact, I started out at the Lagos State University, and I always say to him that he always makes the world know how old I am when he reminds the world that I was his teacher. On that, thank you very much for starting this particular section of the session. On that note, thank you very much, Mr. Moka. Let me commend the LMDC, and without much ado, just go straight into my presentation. I'll share my screen now, and can you just confirm if you can see it? Can I just get some indication that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I start now, and I am speaking basically on resolving disputes through technology in Africa and views from the academic community. And what do we have to offer from the academic community? I want to say a big thank you for the opportunity to be part of this. I had some guidance as to some of the issues that I should share, and I will speak about our experience, and I will also speak to what we hope to begin to do given the insights that we have gained from being part of this whole process, specifically during the settlement month and then subsequently. So what kinds of disputes do we have within the academic community? Well, largely, as you can imagine, we have university. We will usually have the student against student, and we have the university against students, and vice versa, the students against university. We have staff, with staff having dispute. We have university with staff having dispute. And we can imagine that we will have university with its contractors. You will have university with its lessees, with its licensees. And of course, oftentimes the university is in one form of partnership or the other with some people, maybe other universities or higher education institutions or research institutions, and there can be disputes arising. So how do we deal with the disputes that arise in those cases? To date, we have combined both the traditional and alternative modes of dispute resolution, but we have only come onto ODR platform very, very, very slowly. And I think that this, the opportunity of working with LMDC on this has brought a lot to light that there is room for us to do a lot more than we have been able to do to date. Normally what we do when it comes to resolving disputes is we have established official processes, and most of these processes predominantly employ ADR methods and seek win-win outcomes. The only thing is that most of the players are not necessarily trained ADR practitioners. And so it is, even though the method is basically informal and employing ADR methods, but it's not always from a very technically competent perspective, and we need to improve on that. And students, for example, students may lodge complaints with the authorities, such as course advisors, deans, vice chancellor in academic and other matters. And I can tell you that students actually come sometimes even with disputes with outsiders coming to the university. And when it comes to even people like hall masters, hall mistresses, and other stakeholders within the university system, such as leaders of faith-based communities and mentors, may find themselves playing the role of dispute mediators. Then we do have a formal ombudsman committee. That is another one body that takes tries to resolve disputes for us. And even though, again, it uses the ADR method, but all too often, it is not necessarily from a technically competent angle. It's just a bit using your hunch and things that have been picked up. So clearly there is room for training for us. But effectively, most of this entail face-to-face interactions and entail a lot of paperwork. And we have seen how delays are occasioned when parties cannot be physically present. So, for example, matters that have been before the Ombudsman Committee or any other of these players since the COVID lockdown would traditionally have gotten locked down as well. But well, thanks to COVID-19, one of the benefits of it is that we are embracing technology more liberally and developing capacity. So definitely it is time to move on. Litigation is also something that we use, and we need to, but we found that even when we have cases for litigation, we have had courts referring us back, to settlement mediation. But we've never, as far as I know, used the LMDC as for that purpose. Really, we do not engage third-party mediators. Is basically the parties themselves trying to resolve on their own. And so this is insightful. It gives us an opportunity to institutionalize using third-party mediators when we have these kinds of situations. Arbitrations are usually stipulated in agreements that we have, and we use that. Negotiation is one thing that we also use a lot of, especially between the trade and professional unions within the university system. And we also use mediation and conciliation. And I have had the opportunity of actually serving as conciliator in some intra-union disputes. And we have made had some successes in that direction. And so what are some of the developments that we can build on? We have had the establishment of the College of Negotiation. We actually have a private-public partnership with the NCMG, and we have a College of Negotiation that is degree awarding, and it awards the Master of Dispute Resolution as well as the Master of Conflict Management, and it's been in place for 6 years now. We offer online dispute resolution as a course at the LLM level, and we have ADR available as a course for undergraduate law students. But what I would want to speak to more is what we do through the informal processes co-curricular. So we support student capacity development in the area of ADR, generally speaking, because through the ADR Society, we have a very vibrant student-led association called the ADR Society, which has a strong relationship with LMDC, as well as the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and a number of leading law firms engage in ADR methods as part of their strategy of legal services delivery. So much so that many of our students are already involved, have commenced their individual professional certification process. And we support our student participation in international mooting activities. And last year, we were the first Nigerian student team to attend the VISMOOT, to qualify for the VISMOOT, which is the internationally well-renowned student moot arbitration. So we also expanding our research in the area of ODR and the role of technology in the provision of legal services. And yes, we are right now actually using some level of technology. COVID has forced us in that direction, even though we used to do minimally, but clearly we are doing better now, because at least we are attending to student complaints, student issues, you know, through WhatsApp, through text messages, and through emails. But more, I want to speak about what we would want to do for this, for the Online Settlement Month that is coming. And in discussions with LMDC, we are hopeful that we will be able to create awareness of OSM to the university community using the email and text messages platform, which we have wide, so that people can take advantage of that opportunity for the disputes that they have, whether with the university or with any other group of people or individuals. We are hopeful that we can get our students to volunteer to offer clearing support to LMDC in its work, and students have already indicated an interest to doing that, and we'll be working out the modalities for that. We have also offered that we will be able to, the Faculty of Law in particular, will be able to provide some venue and technology support for students and staff who wish to take benefit of the month, the ODM, the free services during the month. I recall that Mrs. Awe initially mentioned that quite a few people have technology deficit, and whether in terms of cost or in terms of access. And we're hopeful that if we do have, if we're able to provide this support, a few more people can take advantage of their Online Settlement Week. So that's what we hope, that's what we hope to do for the Online Settlement Month. But what do we think we can do better than we're doing? Clearly, lessons have been learned, insights have been gained, and it is imperative that we begin to work to improve our students' capacity to use ODR supportive technology even well ahead of graduation. So I listened very closely to what Mrs. Cole shared with us, and beyond developing ADR skills, it's important that we expand learning opportunities for students, and we're hopeful that beyond the Online Settlement Month, we will be able to work with LMDC and other law offices to develop our students' capacity well ahead. We certainly need to begin to deploy ODR more within the university system. And like I mentioned earlier, that's one of the beneficial outcomes of COVID. There's increased acceptance and improvement of capacity when it comes to use of technology. We will certainly, I've mentioned exploring additional opportunities for rendering ADR services, especially through ODR, you know, with the agencies that are already providing that within the state. And of course, I think the time is right for us to encourage our students to expand the membership of ODR Society to other faculties in order to expand awareness generally of the ADR and skills development for non-lawyers when it comes to use of ADR and the ODR platforms. So those are the few thoughts that I thought I would share at this webinar, what we have been able to do to date, what we expect to do in terms of providing support to the online OSM, Online Settlement Week month, and what we expect to be able to do subsequently to enhance our capacity to support the work that is being done currently and build the capacity of the lawyers that we are producing to do better in the future. Thank you very, very much for listening, and gracias. Adupe. Nagudi.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was very, very brilliant, to the point and quite incisive. Thank you. Now, distinguished participants, this webinar would not be, I'm sorry, you can see the results of the final poll. The question was, what do you think are the benefits of ODR? And 83% of respondents of the view that it saves time, saves cost, and is convenient. And 93% of respondents of the view that this webinar has addressed all their online dispute resolution related questions. Thank you. Now we will move quickly into the Q&A segment of this webinar. And I'm pleased to announce that there have been quite a number of questions posted on the Q&A chat box. Now, we will not be able to take all the questions live for reasons of time. So what we're going to try and do is to prioritize. I assure you that all the questions that have been asked will be addressed by the LMDC and posted on their various social media platforms, okay? But we'll take the questions that we can. There's a first question by Gabriel Ofen Imo. His question is, how can the problems of technology for mediators, parties, and their solicitors be addressed and possibly solved or mitigated to ensure success in ODR? And I'll direct that question to Mrs. Arianwo, the Director of the LMDC, to quickly respond to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amuka. Let me just go directly to the question. He says, how can the problem of technology for mediators, parties, and their solicitors be addressed and possibly solved or mitigated to ensure success in ODR? And I think I mentioned it when I was giving my presentation, that technology was one of the main issues. Now, people will just have to invest in technology. But because Nigeria is a developing country, and we know that capacity to be able to invest and buy good laptops or smartphones, these things are not cheap. One of the things that can be done is the Nigerian Bar Association. They can kick in by having centers, IT centers in their various branches, so that when people, and they have Wi-Fi, they also have just more or less like a business center, but with what do we call it? With partitioning, so that the person can go into a particular partition and attend his mediation. But he has Wi-Fi. He also has the necessary equipment to do it. The government, judiciary can also assist in having some centers within the Lagos State High Court, where within the Federal High Court, they can have it, the mediation centers in the local government areas. They can have free Wi-Fi, they can have 1 or 2 laptops or desktop systems to help the citizenry that do not have the required capacity to be able to invest in infrastructure. I think one former NBA chairman has even said that in his own branch, that is one thing that they're going to do. They're going to ensure that their centers, IT centers, they're going to have free Wi-Fi and a few laptops for the use of the citizenry. So I think that's what, but people will just have to, technology is the future. You can't run away from it. So I think one of the most important things is that we should invest. We can save money and start from smartphones. Thank you, Mr. Book. I hope that has answered the question.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. Now, from Adebayo Adesina, this one is also Madam Director, because
Mr. Arianwo, please.
Mr. Moka, you are, I didn't hear what you said. The network.
I'm sorry. The question again from Adebowale Adeshida is, how can we deal more effectively with the core concept of mediator neutrality?
Well, for mediator, one of the things that the LMDC is doing, the first thing we do is disclosure. So we send the statement of issues and the statement in response. We send to the mediator. The first thing is disclosure. Now, if the mediator looks at it and sees that he doesn't know any of the parties, there's no conflict of interest, then he can accept the brief. Now, even after, when we now say we want to really deal with mediator neutrality, even after the mediation has started, it is possible that an issue of conflict of interest or partiality can come in. It behoves on the mediator to disclose immediately. And then parties are encouraged, once they see any sign of partiality in the part of the mediator, it is important that they speak up immediately, report to the LMDC, and we will. I'm not saying that the LMDC will not do due diligence, but once one of the parties has complained, it is better to just change the mediator. So disclosure is the main thing concerning neutrality. The mediator must disclose. He must disclose, whether it comes at the beginning or even after the mediation has started. Disclosure is very key. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Madam. Now, the next question will go to Mrs. Achere Cole, and it's, how can we help the mediation field, ADR, to see itself? How can we begin to collect and analyze mediation information to create a large and reliable body of data to permit us innovate? That question is also from Adebowale Adeshida.
Thank you, Mr. Moka. We found out that there's so much data, within dispute resolution centers, and because of confidentiality, not much is going out in terms of tracking the effect dispute resolution organizations are having. So what we've done is to set up a research and development unit, which we did this year, which will now begin to get grants to commence research in various areas of mediation. But before now, we've also had PhD students who've been coming in here, and we've been giving data, but without giving the names of the cases. So some research has been ongoing, but actively now, from the first quarter of next year, we're going to start funding, at least getting grants for research to ensure that we mine the data and provide the necessary information. And we also hope that there'll be institutions that will partner with us, like Prof has said. I'm so encouraged by what Prof has said today. So we're going to be looking to the academia also to work with us on this.
Thank you. Now, the final question we can take is from Adiola Sabah. And it goes to us. Please, when will accepting new disputes because of COVID-19 pandemic? Mrs. Cole, please.
Hello. Okay. When will the mediation centers start accepting new disputes? Well, we started taking new cases from June, so we've already commenced. You can go to our website, lagosmultidoor.org, and file your case from there, or you can send us an email at info@lagosmultidoor.org, and we'll take up your matter from there. So we've already started taking cases on since June this year.
Thank you very much. Now, all good things must come to a close. We do have a number of other questions that we cannot take now, but you have the assurance of the LMDC that all questions will be posted on the social media handles and will be responded to. So please, we will address all your questions and comments. Thank you. The final item of this program is the closing remarks, which will be taken by Mrs. Josephine Akinwumi. Now, Mrs. Akinwumi is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. She's also a mediator and a member of the planning committee for this webinar. Ms. Akinwumi, please, for your closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muka. My lords, distinguished panelists and participants, I really wish we could go on, but like the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. We have now come to an end of what I can definitely describe as a very insightful webinar. And I'm sure you all can bear witness from the wonderful remarks we've had on the chat room. My role, very briefly, is to appreciate our panelists and everyone who has contributed in making the webinar a great success. Our special thanks today go to the following for their unwavering support and excellent presentations. The Attorney General of Lagos State, Mr. Moyesore Onigbanjo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. The Chief Judge of Lagos State, Honorable Justice K.O. Alugba. The Chairman, Lagos Settlement Week Committee, Honorable Justice T.A. Oyekan Abdullahi. The Acting Chairman, Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse Governing Council, Honorable Justice Pedro. The President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Lumide Akpata, ably represented by Mr. Godwin Omoaka, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. The Dean, Faculty of Law, University of Lagos, who was also my lecturer, Professor Ayodele Ashenua. The Chief Operating Officer of Accord South Africa, Mr. Clifford Collins. The Director, International Energy PLC, Ms. Ibiyemi Adeyinka. And of course, our moderator for today and a member of the Lagos Settlement Week Committee, Mr. Alex Muka. It certainly would not be out of place to appreciate the Director of the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, Mrs. Adeyinka Aroyewu, and the Deputy Director of the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, Mrs. Achere Cole, for all their hard work in preparation for the first online settlement month in Africa. Our thanks today will not be complete without acknowledging and appreciating all participants at this webinar and the technical team who have worked tirelessly and really so hard in ensuring a successful webinar. We are grateful. As we look forward to a very successful online settlement month, we kindly request that you check the website of the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse for further details. The website, like you know, and which we will put on the chat room, is www.lagosmultidoor.org. And I'm sure you'll find that on the chat room. Once again, we say big thank you and God bless you all. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all, directors and all the panelists, and Mr. Moka, the moderator, and all participants. You all made my day. Well done.
Lady, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Has the photograph even been taken? Okay. So it's time to leave. Okay.